Thanksgiving means a lot to a lot of people. I love Thanksgiving, and especially Joel Klatt coming on, because I'm thankful I can teach him about the game I love so much. Joel Klatt, the voice of college football.
Good.
I zigged. You thought I was zagging on that.
No, that was good.
That was very good. Well done.
So you have Ohio State, Michigan.
Yeah, buddy.
The world will be watching you on Fox with Gus. I will say this, and I brought this up to an Ohio State, devoted Ohio State person.
Okay.
I said, it's pretty clear that Marvin Harrison is the best college receiver in a long time.
Okay.
And it's pretty clear that C.J. Stroud's really, really good.
Yeah.
And Michigan hammered you twice, and now they have the better quarterback. They're at home, and their defense is as good as yours. There's parts of me that look at this and think, like, what am I arguing about? Michigan is going to beat them convincingly, and yet that Harbaugh thing, I guess I look at some data and I'm like, okay, they're both good defenses, so it's not going to be a shootout.
I don't think so either. I think both defenses are going to play well.
But am I wrong to think,
well, beaten
badly with C.J. Stroud?
I mean, there's an elephant in the room here that you're leaving out, right?
Okay.
And having said that, though, I think that head coach in situations like this is they play a big part, more so than in normal games. You know, when you get into these games, the head coach is so important for not only his decisions but his demeanor, keeping people relaxed and focused, because the enormity of the situation can overwhelm players. Remember, these are still 19 to 22-year-olds, right? And Jim Harbaugh has been a coach for decades, and he's been successful wherever he's been. He's coached in a Super Bowl against his brother. Like, this wasn't going to bother him. He's just won 2 times in a row. Like, he wants to win, yes, but he is seasoned in a setting like that. And Ryan Day is, by the way, as well. He's been here as a coordinator and now a coach, and he's won it and he's lost it, and he knows what to feel. Sharon Moore has been the acting coach 3 times, Bowling Green, and then in the last 2 weeks. And I would just argue, as good of a coach as Sharon Moore is, he will have to face something that he's never faced before, nor can prepare for, from a feeling standpoint, from a pressure standpoint. It's just going to be different. And I think that in this type of a game and the enormity of the situation, that has to be factored in. Ohio State is really good, and they're playing their best football too. No one wants to, look at this, but Ohio State's offensive line has gotten so much better since the beginning of the season. The fact that Travion Henderson is playing well, their running back, he's playing as well as any back in the country. Like, period. He's that good. And McCord, everyone wants to take shots at McCord and talk about how McCord is not J.J. McCarthy. And, okay, he might not be J.J. McCarthy. He's still pretty damn good. This is a guy that led a drive, 12-play drive, I believe, in the fourth quarter against Notre Dame and won the game. And that was with a banged-up Marvin Harrison and a banged-up Travion Henderson. So I think it's probably a more even game than what you're anticipating.
The Vegas guys know what they're doing, so 3.5 tells me it's going to be pretty low scoring, and it's going to be pretty close. So I would trust. So Vegas is right much more than I am.
I think that there's a giant key in this game.
Oh, I want to hear it.
Okay. Maybe a little inside football, but 2 weeks ago, Michigan had to run it 32 times in a row and finish the game with 32 runs, not throw a pass in the second half. And everyone, including me, were like, man, that was so impressive. Look at them. They imposed their will on the opposition. Now, there's also a side of that. They had to do that because they could not protect the passer. Carson Barnhart, their right tackle, who's a good player, he was getting beat badly in the first 2 series by good speed rushers, Chop Robinson, Adisa Isaac for Penn State.
Chop's good.
They could not block those guys, and they abandoned that. They didn't throw a drop-back pass after the second series of the game. Not one, Colin, not one. Now you go into a game where you got to face JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer.
Those are guys, by the way, both mid to late first-round guys, aren't they?
Probably. Tuimoloau, certainly. Maybe Sawyer is playing himself into that.
Sawyer's good, too.
Tuimoloau, at times, has been a game wrecker. He did it last year against Penn State.
No, he was the best defensive lineman in the country in high school. He's been a little inconsistent, but very good at Ohio State.
Okay, so now my question is how Michigan protects the passer. They didn't have Ladarius Henderson, one of their tackles, last week. They got Miles Hinton hurt. That hurts their depth. He came in to replace Henderson. Where are they at protecting the passer? Because I don't believe against this Ohio State defense, as veteran as it is, as sound as it is, as quality as they have been against the run, you can't do what you did the last couple of years and just run the football in the second half. You can't do what you did to Penn State and just run it 32 straight times.
Point.
So that's going to be, I think, the biggest factor in the game. Also, is will Michigan be able to throw the ball?
Buckeyes are running the ball better now than a month ago.
Way better. Yeah. And that goes back to Travion Henderson. I think he's the best back in the country in the last month.
Yeah. So, first of all, you talked about some elephant in the room. I mean, some stuff flies over my head, but I think you're insinuating the advanced scouting.
Well, I think some people would say that had a giant effect on the last two games. Other people would say it didn't have an effect.
I think it has.
I just think it's an elephant in the room.
Well, let's talk about it then. You can't walk into a room with elephants and not talk about them, right? It would be a discussion. If you and I walked into this studio and there was an elephant, we would be like, "There's an elephant. Let's talk about the elephant."
Let's go. Okay,
how
did
it get in here?
Let's go.
It would be disingenuous for me, though I've been pro-Michigan, to not admit that knowing things before they happen, if I had a few answers on my college exam, I go from an 80 to an 88, it helps.
Oh, okay. So you were a B student?
Mostly.
Okay.
Could have been, just didn't want to. Had a good time in college. Some of us had a better time than they should have. So let's talk about that. So if we acknowledge that they did have some signals. I don't doubt that.
Sure.
In your career, don't you? I always have this feeling. Mac Brown talked to me about the Longhorn Network at the other place. They had to change their signals more because of the Longhorn Network.
Yeah.
Don't programs like Ohio State and Michigan, when you play a big TV game, which for the Buckeyes in Michigan is like every third week.
Yeah.
Aren't you changing signals all the time?
Yeah, I think that you are. And I think that the advantage that some people think was garnered by this scheme, I think, is overblown. Now, if all of a sudden you can say, like, hey, this is a trick play, or hey, this is a 7-man protection, max protection, let's drop into coverage. Like, those are big advantages. And there are times where I know from the Ohio State side, they felt like that was going on. Now, having said that, I'll tell you what, let's do a little experiment here. All right. So part of the problem is that in college football, we don't allow quarterbacks, and this is generally speaking, this is not specific to Ohio State, okay? So I want to put that preface out. We don't allow quarterbacks to handle the game on the field. We want them to look over and get the signal, and the coach in the box and on the sideline is going to handle the game. Well, at the NFL level, it's different. You get the audio, and then the quarterback handles it at the line of scrimmage. Let me give you an example of this. Okay, so let's just say that you're going to run, and this is, by the way, the way I cut my teeth as a player, and then with the Lions and Saints under Sean Payton. You would get a couple of plays or a package of plays in the huddle, okay, and it would be all out of the same formation or movement, okay. So you would be like, you're going to get into east right, blast to triple right U-disco. Then you're going to run a combination of whatever plays. So you're going to have 96 power. You're going to have 200 jet X slant Y spacing. And maybe you're going to have like a check alert to an all-go special. Okay, and that's what you got. So you got these 3 plays. Well, they're based on specific defensive looks. Well, guess what you can do as a quarterback? You don't need the signal from the sideline. You can get up and use a dummy color in your cadence. You can do things like, hey, the first play is going to be an AFC West city, and the second play is going to be an NFC city, NFC East city. Right. So you come up and you just give a shout, and you're just like, hey, Seattle, or I said AFC, so like Denver, okay, and everyone's like, okay, we're running 96 power, and then you get in there and you can give even a dummy color. Yellow was a dummy color.
So what you're saying
is,
like,
yellow 9, and guess what? Nothing's going to happen. Said, hot. Defense moves, and you say, got it. Denver, here we go, because we see the look. I see that you're in 2 safeties, not 1 safety. Oh, they're moving to 1 safety. Colin, check. Here we go. What do we got? New York. Now we're in 200 jet X slant. Y spacing. So I can handle that with no signal whatsoever. Okay. And we don't do that in college football. We're not teaching the quarterbacks how to handle
but here's the other thing.
The offense on the field.
I think, and this is why I don't think the signals is as big a deal as people say. One, you're changing it all the time. Two, you'd absolutely change it for the rivalry game. I mean, there's too much intermingling.
I don't want to minimize it, though, right? Like, if a rule is broken, a rule's broken, and you should be punished.
That's different. I'm saying, what did it affect the outcome? That you're true. I'm not denying that if they made a mistake, punish them. What I'm saying is, what's the influence? So, number one is everybody's changing signs regularly, especially when you face your rival.
You would think.
Here's the other thing. All coaches, when they're calling offensive plays, there's only there. You know what I mean? Like even when
because all of a sudden in game is fine.
Well,
but
you're doing this. Like the kid comes over on the. I mean, when you go to the sidelines, let's say Ohio
you're
State,
going to cover
you're talking to your kid. You turn to the side in the bench and you say, "We're going to run this."
Yeah.
And that kid knows the first two plays as he hits the field.
Yeah.
Okay. And then sometimes you do signals. Other times you give it to a player to take it in. So the idea that every play is signaled, every play is stolen, I think is overstated. Every game you're changing.
I agree with that. Now, was there an advantage garnered? Probably.
Yes.
And that's hard to swallow for Ohio State fans, but it's so fascinating just to, I think it's one of these things. I heard this analogy. Is anyone else familiar with Free Solo? That documentary about the rock climber.
Oh, yeah. I've seen
Alex
that.
Honnold.
That's crazy.
Wild, right? And he climbs, like El Cap with no rope.
Yeah.
There was a line in that documentary, and that line was, if you know a little bit about rock climbing, you think this is wild. And if you know a lot about rock climbing, you think it's absolutely insane. Like the more you know, the more you think that it's crazy. Well, something similar, although not totally similar, you could say about football. The less you know about football, the more you think this impacted the actual outcome of the game. The more you know about football, the more you don't minimize it. There was an advantage gained here or there, but it's certainly not every play. You see these clips on social media of like, it was third down and they knew it was a pass. It's like, yeah, because the running back was in front of the quarterback. Like just by alignment, I knew that it was a pass, right? So I think that the less you know about football, the more you overblow this whole situation. Having said that, I don't want to minimize the fact that on the Ohio State side, they feel like C.J. Stroud would have won a Heisman Trophy. They feel like there were a couple of calls that were stolen probably in advance from that game and that those plays would have changed the outcome of the game. So both can be true. Did it change the outcome? Maybe. Is it as overblown as the Twitter sphere wants to make it? No. Yeah. No, it's not.
My favorite line ever?
Is it a movie?
Dolly Parton and Steel Magnolias. If you don't have anything nice to say about anybody, why don't you come sit next to me? I'm sorry, that was a weird segue. Okay.
No, it was a good
let me throw this one at you. There's another one. This show is always unpredictable.
It really is.
So I said the advantage in a rivalry game of getting stomped, you're pissed. You're not in a good... You can sell that to the players. They humiliated you. They stole our Heisman. But this is different. The angrier team is Michigan, who thinks they got screwed by the conference, that their coach isn't on the field. So the team that hammered Ohio State feels like people are stealing stuff.
I'm going to disagree with this premise here.
You want another Steel Magnolias quote?
Well, no. and let me just shift the same premise, that you're talking about. Okay, just bear with me for a moment. It's not about being angry. Okay, it's not about being more motivated. All right, that's not a thing. A thing is being more disciplined, more focused on your preparation. Yeah. And I think what happened to Ohio State over the last couple of years has uniquely focused them on this matchup and this game and what they need to do to win it. Whereas what you're talking about being pissed, Michigan's pissed, well, that doesn't do anything for you unless that is turned into and channeled into focus and preparation. Yeah. So if they're mad at the conference, that's a distraction. The quickest way to be defeated is to be distracted.
And emotional.
Unless you can channel it into, well, this is what we need to do to have success. Because, again, the less you know about football, the more you'll think about, like, well, who's more motivated? Who's mad?
Well, yeah, I don't care.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Who's more focused? Who's more prepared? And what did those teams use to focus themselves in that unique perspective?
Very good. All right, couple college football questions. First of all, Sark gets his first career 10-win season.
Yeah.
Is Texas have a shot to get in there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There's no doubt. Now, there's a chance that they get boxed out.
What's the best case for them?
The best case
Bama
for them,
beats Georgia.
I think, is
because then they're going to get voted in over Bama.
I believe that that's the case. Yes, it would help if Florida State didn't look good against Florida or Louisville beats Florida State. That would help. It would help if Oregon were to
Washington.
win. But you can make an argument that kind of takes a spot anyways. So why not just Washington win in that regard?
Do you feel vindicated? You and I think, feel a little vindicated on Harbaugh, who people hammered for years. And I would say Sark.
Oh, sure.
I always felt Sark was a great coach. I thought we've watched, because he got a job so early at high-profile programs.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't get to go to Bowling Green like Urban Meyer. And then, Utah, before we talked about Utah. And all of a sudden he's at Florida. It's like Sark. USC, Washington. It's whoa. Those are, I'm seeing all your mistakes right out there. We pay attention to about 12 programs in the country. Right? And so Sark goes, and so I think we watched Sark grow.
Well, and people, I think, still have a total failure in perspective of what he took over at Washington.
They were 0-12.
They were 0-12 before he got there.
Impossible for a Power 5 conference.
Everyone's like, he didn't even win 10 games. He took over a winless program. Winless,
You
right?
can't go winless as a Power 5. You play a directional school in your state.
And you can make a strong argument that Peterson had a bit more success with Sark era guys,
certainly in the first year,
than he did when it was just his guys. Not that Peterson's a poor coach, because he's obviously sensational. Where Sark messed up, admittedly so, is he was a train wreck personally at USC.
Yeah, that's right.
And he went and he fixed himself. And I will tell you, he's sober. I'm sober, as you know. I've talked about this openly.
Yeah.
And let me just tell you what type of guy he is. Okay. I see him on the field before the game. So we have our meetings and everything, and it's a production meeting before the game against Kansas State. Now, one of the more intimate times that I get with head coaches is before the game on the field, because the pressure's off, but the preparation is done. And so you can kind of get them, and they're like, well, here we go, type of a mindset. The first thing he said to me, this is the type of guy he is. He looked at me, he put his arm around me, he's like, how you doing, man? And I look at him, and I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, do you go to meetings? Do you, and he wanted to ask me about my sobriety. Mm-hmm. And that's what we talked about for 5 minutes. And I felt like he genuinely cared about what I was going to. He was like, I'm proud of you. I was like, listen, I'm proud of you. And his kids those players talk about him being honest and upfront about what he's dealt with in his life, and it's made them a better team. And that's what he talked about this last week in terms of culture. So does that make him a great coach? No, but in some ways, his vulnerability with his players, his authenticity with what he's dealt with, has made him a better coach today than he was previously in his life.
And most people can, if they have vulnerabilities or significant trauma, are not public figures. So
that's
everybody knows about, you've been open about your Sark, Texas football coach, pretty high-profile gig. So I think it's harder when you have personal life chaos or trauma. And
he's built a great program.
Oh,
there.
First of all, it was the first time when they played Bama. I'm like,
they were just the better team.
Oh, they had bigger, better players. I'm like, now Georgia has been Bama's equal for years, a little faster, I feel like, at key spots. But like Texas you don't see people that are bigger than Bama. And I was like, oh no, Texas got the better players.
Texas owned the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball.
Remember late, they had to get a big drive. They just leaned on Bama.
They leaned on the run game. So their offense. So by the way, this narrative that play them now, Bama's better. Not at the line of scrimmage. Sorry. That's the same.
That's
and
right.
Texas was better. They went on the field with 7 minutes to go, and the lead didn't leave the field. Ran the ball 9 straight times. Didn't throw a pass. Didn't check to a run, didn't throw an RPO, didn't trick anybody, handed the ball off 9 straight times, finished the game on the field. Texas is just better than Alabama.
Finally, I have to address this. Recency bias, especially with iPhones, is powerful. People overreact to everything. Caleb Williams is going to go number 1, and he's going to have a really good NFL career. And I think Lincoln Riley is going to be fine. He was overly loyal to a defensive coach that was a bit over his skis. I think USC will be fine. But I believe I am now in a minority. I am hearing a lot of people all over the country saying, Lincoln is fool's gold.
Oh, man, I heard this too.
And my take is 11 wins, 10 wins, and 11 wins, 55 and 10. People don't get how bad USC was when he took them over. They had like 30 players.
Yeah.
And they stumbled this year because I think coaches, because they vacation and are very close to their assistants. NFL's not the case. Everybody's just a hired gun. College, these coaches travel together, recruit together, vacation together. He stayed with some coaches due to loyalty, and it burned him this year.
Yeah, it did. And remember, Alex got on the plane. You know, I mean,
that's right.
Coming from Oklahoma to USC.
That's a great point. He got on the plane. 5 guys did.
And Lincoln was taking major heat. You remember how toxic that was, his exit from Oklahoma. So I think he remained loyal to him from that perspective. This take that Lincoln Riley is a terrible coach, it's patently absurd.
It's like dumb.
It's very, very dumb.
I think you just nailed it. I don't know if you know you nailed it. That is a great point.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Alex got on.
He got on the plane.
And by the way, when Saban went to LSU.
No one got on the plane.
When Kiffin went to USC, you asked those guys, because you got to leave in the middle of the night.
That's right.
Who's getting on the plane? And you got to be loyal for at least 2. Alex Grinch moved his whole family.
Yes. You know, I know their wives were close. And again, like, he was going to give them a chance to make it right. And here's the thing. In the end, guess who knew more than anybody? Alex knew. You know, in that game, right after he got fired, I believe it was Washington, right? Was he let go right after Washington? I think it was Washington.
It was a great game, by the way, but I think it was Washington.
You could tell one of the plays late in the game. I had never seen this. I've covered Oklahoma and Alex Grinch and here at USC for a long time. I knew Alex when he was at Washington State or when he was at Ohio State for a year. I'd never seen this reaction on the sideline out of him ever, not one time. He put his hands on his knees and his head just sunk down. And you could tell, like, he knew what Lincoln was going to have to do. He knew that he had been fortunate that Lincoln was, I think, just stand up in the regard that he kept him for that second year. I know, listen, you can tell me, like, well, who cares if he got on the plane? That's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
He got on the plane. Now, didn't help him stop anybody, but he got on the plane.
Okay. So 3 lines today. The first line was from the movie you saw, which was?
The Alex Honnold, right? If you know a little about rock climbing, you think it's wild. And if you know a lot, you think it's really wild.
Second great line, Dolly Parton. If you don't have anything nice to say about people, why don't you sit next to me?
Got a chair right here.
And the third one is, he got on the plane. Uncut gems today.
Yeah, and you know what? If I was you, America, I would be thankful for that on a Thanksgiving week. That's so bad. That's so bad. I'm thankful for this show on a Thanksgiving week. I appreciate you always having me on. I really enjoy our conversations.
Oh, you're fam, buddy. You are fam. You know, you ever
J-Mac didn't even chime in.
No, J-Mac.
Your shirt's louder than your mouth today.
But J-Mac knows the boss.
So much for being thankful. Goodness gracious.
No, I mean, I can be thankful and call it out like it is.
No, you don't like this? You're not
no, I didn't say I didn't like it. I just said it was loud.
J-Mac,
I would wear it.
A negative connotation.
No, not for you.
No, not for you.
Fair enough.
The shirt looks good on you.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, we're literally a disco ball away from Studio 54.
Here we go. All right.
I mean, I'm wearing a gray sweater. You're thinking this from a guy with like army-colored jeans and a gray sweater.
There's nothing dull about beige.
This is not beige. I said green and gray.
Okay, yeah. I guess my eyes.
Well, the shirt is bright in your eyes.
Popping,
it's hard.
Yes,
it's hard. It wasn't a shot. I like the shirt.
Thank you.
Looks you're as good as anybody I've ever worked with, buddy. Great seeing you.
I appreciate you and you, J-Mac. I'm sorry.
You.
I feel like I hurt your feelings.
It's not like you kicked my dog. You just took a shot at the shirt here.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.